Hey, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Monday afternoon. It is the Earthmaster here, checking in about 3:48 p.m. California time, August 12th, 2024. Got some aftershock activity coming into the Bakersfield area, but looking more closely here around the earthquake that struck here in Southern California today. Following that 4.4, we've seen a handful of smaller aftershocks, but surprisingly, not the number that one would expect following a 4.4 earthquake out here. Now, this earthquake struck about 6 miles below the surface here in the greater Los Angeles area. It was felt all over the place, and quite a few comments there on my last video and the live stream stating that this earthquake felt more like a 5 or above. And as you can see, quite a bit of folks feeling this earthquake all the way from Bakersfield down to San Diego, with some moderate to maybe even a little bit of strong shaking being observed there from that 4.4. Again, I find that a little odd here that it's been downgraded consistently here, at least in terms of the last couple events. So I want to show you guys here real quick what they're utilizing. They're only utilizing 6 stations here, with nothing being reported in terms of the error, but it's got the lowest magnitude right here. Originally, well, it looks like they've changed these up a little bit here. There's 168 stations with this one for a very minimal error rate at 0.154. Let's see what these guys got here in terms of magnitudes. It looks like they've done something different here. Originally, we seen a whole bunch of 5s, mid-5s, and lower 5s coming up in the magnitudes here. Now it looks like there's just a whole bunch of mid-4s. So these are all the reporting stations out here giving the estimated magnitude here from various seismograph stations. It all gets computed in and figured out and spit out as a preliminary earthquake when one occurs. And then, of course, the seismologists will review this and make the determination on the correct magnitude. But yeah, that's maybe it was this one they were originally going off of, because this earthquake came in as a 5.7 here. I think this is the one. A lot of 5s in here, a lot of upper 4s. And many folks reported feeling it stronger. They said it was stronger than a mid-4. You know, probably more than likely up above a 5. So it's hard to say exactly, you know, what is the correct magnitude out here. There's hundreds of reporting stations here. And, you know, they went with 6 stations here that have the lowest possible magnitude. Not for sure what the error rate is on that, but, you know, a little crazy, to say the least here. So got a lot of shaking going on out here in Southern California, and in general, you know, you'll hear the news agencies saying that none of this activity today is related to the activity up in Bakersfield, and that's 50-50 false, 50% true in a way, right? In terms of, did this occur on the same fault system as the Bakersfield activity? Absolutely not. But when you think about this here, this whole area is under the influence of one plate boundary, and that makes them related here. You got the Pacific plate here to the west, right? West of this red line, left, and then the North American plate boundary to the right of this line here, to the east. And regional strain and stress has been building up here for about 300 years. And not only at the plate boundary level here along the San Andreas Fault, but many other fault systems out here. So in a relationship there, they are connected because of the regional strain and stress that builds up in Southern California due to the interaction here of the plate boundary. Really simple map here shows the general direction here, and it doesn't show all the different faults, the thrust faults and shear faults, but the general direction here of the plate movement, with Los Angeles on one side and the North American side of the plate boundary here on the eastern side. Northwest, southeast here. So that's adding further strain in general here across this dynamic area. A lot of fault systems out here. And in fact, Dr. Lucy Jones here, the face of earthquakes, whenever there's an earthquake out here, everyone looks for her. And she was really quick to jump on board here, stating that she missed feeling this earthquake. She was in parking. She was parking the car at a grocery store This location was essentially the same location as the M3.4 back in June. Now, this earthquake was not on the Raymond Fault, supposedly. That's what she's stating right here, which is a steeply dipping fault that outcrops in South Pasadena. So she's thinking maybe the Puente Hills Thrust Fault and the Elysian Park Thrust are names given to that stack here. So there's a couple different faults that stack on top of one another here in this area. And that's a bad sign, right? Obviously, the faults are there because of the strain, the stress. You don't get these faults and mountain ranges building up from nothing. Obviously, there's a lot of strain, a lot of pressure up against this plate boundary. As a whole, regionally as a whole right here. If you look closely, not every single fault system is out here. There's a Raymond Fault. She doesn't believe it's on that one. There's a couple other different thrust dipping faults out here in this area south of Pasadena where she believes the earthquake struck on, but not at the surface level. She doesn't believe there's a surface fault here. So it's underneath this area, obviously, 6.8 miles. But, it's something to watch pretty closely here. This isn't the only area of interest here recently in terms of dynamic earthquake activity out here. We've seen an increase in it. And historically, around the Pasadena area, there's some earthquake activity out here. I pulled up 5.0 and above since records have been kept here for the greater area of Los Angeles. And around the Pasadena area, it looks like there was a 5.0 back in 1988. A 6-pointer a little bit further here to the south and east back in 1855. A couple other 5s out there as well. There's a 5.9 earthquake back from 1987, a little bit further south. So a lot of time has passed out here in terms of the potential for stress accumulation out here on numerous fault systems. And so it's hard to keep track of every single fault system out here. The ones that she mentioned, I can't find a whole lot of information on, but obviously there is some concern that those faults are, starting to show a little bit more activity and could produce a larger quake out here. So the relationship, obviously there's separation between Los Angeles and the Bakersfield area. We got about, on a scale here, maybe 100 kilometers, 50, 60 miles or so, maybe give or take some more. So in close proximity, regionally, geographically, this is close here and shows an overall picture, paints an overall picture here of the stress that's been building up here across California here recently. Now is the time to definitely be on guard with further increasing movement. And, I don't think we're done yet. At least with this area. It looks a little odd to see only a handful of smaller quakes here following that 4.4. A little weird, and it could have something to do with the dynamic here, the thrust area. There's some hills out here, it looks like. Let me go to the satellite view. Well, that's going to show worse, but you can see some of these ridges, these mountains out here. Very small hills, it looks like. Mountains over here. But that's obviously some strain of the stress that builds up here against the plate boundary. The San Andreas Fault right now sleeping, but that's not always going to be the case, folks. The southern end here is very capable of producing an 8.1 earthquake. All right, so these little 4s, supposedly that's what it is. It's going to be a lot worse of a day when the big one happens out here. And the best thing to do, anyone can do, is to be prepared for something larger. I've seen quite a few videos floating out here of pets being aware of the earthquake just prior to the shaking going on. So these animals obviously know when something's about ready to hit out there. It's pretty interesting to watch some of those videos. Heard of a water main break there. I think it's around the City Hall area. And maybe someone trapped in an elevator around that area as well. But no official, injuries or whatnot from this earthquake. It's crazy, though. They're announcing this, the news agencies, a powerful earthquake has struck Los Angeles. And a 4.4, right? That's really not powerful in terms of earthquakes. And if you guys watch this channel, we have a lot of earthquakes here, right? Just in the last 7 days, 4.5 and above, there's been 80 earthquakes across the area. Last 30 days, 4.5 and above, 368. So 4-pointers happen a lot. I wouldn't consider that a powerful earthquake. But some say that it was felt stronger, a little bit stronger than the 4.4 that they're stating. So I appreciate all the comments coming in. It's interesting to see that more people think this earthquake was stronger than what they're putting out. Again, originally a 4.7. They did that with this one up here, I believe, as well. Remember when that earthquake came in here back on the 6th. Has it really been 6 days already? Goodness, time's flying by. 5.2, I believe that originally came in a little bit stronger. Got downgraded there to a 5.2. Can't remember the original magnitude estimate. I think it was a 6-pointer if I remember right. Yeah, initial magnitudes here were 6, 5.7 to 6-pointer, and then that got downgraded tremendously as well. And that's the earthquake there in the Bakersfield area from about 6 days ago, which is still seeing some aftershock activity. And in general, look at this. Look how many aftershocks have occurred here. 575 earthquakes here following a 5.2. 4.4, a little bit strong, or a little bit less in intensity, right? But there should still be, I think there should be a little bit more aftershock activity than what we're seeing here. Let me see what we got previously, last 30 days in this area. Looks like there was a couple smaller quakes here prior to today's 4.4. A couple there from yesterday. We had a 1.2, 1.1, 1.7. A little bit of activity. See, those are all foreshocks there. Hopefully this whole event's not a foreshock scenario here. And then a couple days ago, 1.8, 2.3, 1.4, 1.3. So it's good to pay attention to these little swarms, right? These little areas of interest, because not all the time, but sometimes they can be little foreshocks and clues to maybe some bigger earthquake activity occurring out here. A little bit of movement here outside the Big Bear Lake area as well. Got themselves a little swarm going on today. A couple smaller earthquakes this morning. Just a key indicator here of regional strain out against the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault. One of these days we're going to report on this earthquake when it strikes out here, and it's going to be a big one. So to be not caught off guard, it's always good to have an earthquake plan, folks. What are you going to do when things start shaking, and it's not going to be 5 seconds and then gone. It's going to be a fairly lengthy duration, and then also you got to deal with the liquefaction over here across Los Angeles area. Could echo the damage waves out here in this region. I can't remember if they put out a scenario on here or not in terms of that earthquake, but 8-pointer out here across the southern branch. It's going to be a shaker, that's for sure. So let's look at, let me see here. Northern California, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on up north here. It seems like most of the momentum and pressure is right across this area here, right where the strain builds. And I think this Garlock Fault shear zone has a lot to do with it. I keep mentioning it. It kind of acts as a spring. And most of the time, we either got earthquake activity down south of here or north of this shear zone. But lately, we've been getting some increasing movement there around Bakersfield, and now all this activity here today across this region. A couple smaller quakes up here north of Santa Paula. That's well northwest of today's activity, but just be on guard, folks. There's a lot going on out there, and whether the big one strikes tonight, right now, or in the next couple years, it's good to be prepared, right? Yellowstone National Park, not a whole lot going on up here. I want to do just a quick update on worldwide stuff. I want to see if that 4.4 showed up on Yellowstone or not. They got wind going on up there right now. I can see the wind signals. 4.4, where is it? August 12th. That's today's. Just a couple hours ago. I'm guessing one of these signals is going to be the 4.4 out there in Southern California. So, yeah, it doesn't look as strong as that 5-pointer did a couple days ago on the graphs. And by the way, this darker reading is going to be wind. Let me show you guys here real quick. Let's use this map here real quick, just in case anyone's wondering here what could be making that signal. It's either going to be wind or thunderstorms up there, or a combination of both. Looks like right now wind out there across Yellowstone National Park. 20, 30 mile per hour gusts out here, maybe locally higher. As far as the radar goes, excuse me, goodness, I do have some thunderstorms out here, it looks like, just to the west of this area. But yeah, a lot of wind showing up here within the last couple hours on that seismo. All right, rest of the country out here. Minimal movement across the oil fields, it looks like today. Nothing big going on. A little spotty activity down south here in the oil fields of Texas. A lot of oil fields out here. Puerto Rico region, a handful of smaller quakes. I don't think we got anything major going on out here worldwide. There's this little odd earthquake out in the South Pacific Ocean, 5.4, well away from the plate boundary. Don't see too much earthquake activity out there like that, but we had a 5.4. And let's see what we got for historical data out there. It's a little rare. In fact, I don't see, goodness, I don't see anything being reported out here historically. So it's quite rare to see an earthquake out here in this area. What it means? Well, something going on underneath this area. Looks like about 5 miles below the surface here, the oceanic crust. Anything major going on for Hawaii? As far as the volcanic activity goes, we're at a standstill here for now. Little bit of earthquake activity here stretching across the Middle East Rift Zone area. So let's see what we got here for Hawaii real quick. Stand by for a second while I pull this up. I'm utilizing the Microsoft Edge web browser for this because something's going on here with Google Chrome when I try to access the data on here. And I'm not for sure why, but I don't want to have issues while I'm doing this, so we'll just go over here to Kilauea Volcano and get rid of some of these instruments, right? Because I can't even see the volcano underneath here as far as the status goes. So many options there from the USGS. All right, so the volcano still at a yellow and advisory. I'll check out a seismograph station or two out here, see what we got. Lacking data. There's a data blackout there, it looks like, earlier this morning and late last night. Some earthquake activity, that's going to be these well-defined spikes. So there's actually quite a bit going on here in the last 12 hours. But as you've seen here on the map, around this area, they're only showing 3 earthquakes. So what's going on? Where's that other earthquake activity at? That should be up here. Those aren't big ones, but they're still earthquakes, right? You guys see that? So we still got that earthquake activity there at that location. Let me check the summit area. Not so much at the summit, a couple ones. So some of this other earthquake activity looks like it's localized here to this vicinity. And check down here. Yeah, even down south there, or southeast of that area, getting some earthquake activity. Pressurization cracking going on here, it looks like. I still think we're going to see a displacement here of magma from the upper East Rift Zone further south and east here across maybe the lower East Rift Zone soon. Tilt meter in this area, fairly level. There's that displacement of magma from the summit to the upper East Rift Zone on the green. And far as the summit area goes, a little bit of up and down here, and that could have something to do with all the plate movement here recently over the hot spot. Not a whole lot going on, though, at the summit. It looks fairly neutral here in the last day or two. No dramatic increase. So we'll continue to watch this. It's just a waiting game. Rest of the area of Hawaii, minimal scattered earthquake activity there at best. What do we got for New Zealand? Couple threes down there. Why is New Zealand always has threes? It's just threes all the time. It's crazy. Pretty quiet out here across the New Guinea area eastward along the plate boundary. Let's go check out GeoNet servers here real quick, see what we got, and then we'll talk about space weather activity. Had a big solar storm last night and continuing this morning, and I think even right now. We'll check that out here in a little bit. Earthquake activity, it looks like the last one here, 2.8 from yesterday. Let's see what we got. We do have the Wakari White Island at level 3 here, having a little minor volcanic eruption. There is a potential, obviously, of seeing some further explosions and whatnot. But right now, they're just having these little ash and steam explosions, if you will, up at the summit area. Let's see if we got a monitoring station out here. Looks like there's a little steam event right now. So not a full-scale, huge eruption, but it's been off and on here over the past few days with this type of activity. A good indicator, though, magma's just below the surface. So that's something to watch pretty closely across the New Zealand area. Again, that's just off the North Island region. Let's check out the drums. Nothing major going on across any of the seismograph stations there in terms of unusual activity. Yeah, it's just an odd one right there. It's a little crazy. A lot going on underneath the plates, right? Some movement there from yesterday and today across the Indonesia Islands area. Japan region. Let's see what we got. Let's put the center screen. That's an area of concern, obviously. No mega quake yet. Still seeing some earthquake activity here across the Japan Trench, 4s and some 3s. A little bit of uptick here across the Aleutian Trench in Alaska. That's going to be this area just north here. So we're definitely seeing some adjustment going on here across the Pacific Plate. That includes California. I believe Syria's seen a 5-pointer, a little odd out there, 5.0 in Syria earlier this afternoon coming in. Looks like EMSC reporting that as a 5.1, fairly obvious there on the globe. And a handful of smaller quakes out there stacking upon each other out in this area of the Aegean Sea area, it looks like. Nothing major, nothing going on across the Atlantic for now. Another 3.0 South America area down there on the globe. Let's go over to Iceland and see what's up across this area, where we got about 68 earthquakes here in the last 12 hours. A little bit down here across this area of interest near the Grindavik area, just outside of town it looks like. Nothing major, but still getting a bunch of these little microquakes out here in the area. And overall uplift of the land is at a maximum level. We should see things kick off here pretty soon. Let me find the Icelandic Met Office here, see what we have. This update was put out a couple days ago, so nothing new yet, but they're just talking about, still chatting about the chances of a magma flow and even an eruption are increasing. That is due to, well, the swelling of the area, getting some further push of magma from below, and we're at a level here where things are going to start ramping up here real soon in terms of the eruption. All right, goodness. So we actually seen a G4 class storm. Look at this. That is crazy. KP index up around the 8 level. G4 class storm. Let me go over here to the... Oh, right here. Refresh this, make sure I got the most recent data, which I believe I do. Yeah, G4 storms were observed in the last 24 hours. That is crazy. So I went to bed last night. Looks like a few folks here in Northern California were out and about and got to see some of the auroras. Not quite as strong as what they were back in May, but still they were somewhat visible here, even in Northern California. So these G4, G5 storming conditions can really get up there and create, some very visual auroras, even down to the lower latitudes. So right now, things look like they're toning down slightly. Here's the most recent aurora forecast here. Getting dark out here across the eastern portion of the country, of the states. You might be able to see them just after dark. Still got a decent chance coming in here, it looks like. Not quite as lit up as what it was early this morning and last night. But the KP index still up above a 5 level, so got a decent chance. If you missed it last night, maybe check it out tonight. Here's the forecast for KP index at 5, but we've been above that, and we're still above that right now. But get outside if you get a chance there. I appreciate a couple of folks sending in some aurora pictures there. I went out there last night for about 2 minutes there, and I took a picture of the northern horizon with a 3-second exposure on my cell phone, and it picked up a little bit of the pinkish color auroras way out there. But in that about 30 seconds or so I was out there, I got bit up by a bunch of mosquitoes, so I was not wanting to get bit. So I went ahead and went inside. But a few folks got to see it here in Northern California. And of course, obviously, well above that, right? If you're higher into the states, northern tier states. So we'll watch for that tonight. Still somewhat elevated out there in terms of the solar storm. And let me show you guys here the solar wind. Real-time solar wind stream is what plays a major part on the look at this all night last night and this morning. The BZ component here of the interplanetary magnetic field was pointed south, tipped south here, south of that line, this line right here. If it's north here, then that suppresses the auroras, but all night, all this morning, it was wide open there, pointing south. Just now, though, here in the last couple hours, or last few minutes or so, we're starting to go up around that line, so that's why it is suppressing a little bit, but we'll see what happens, right? Might want to get outside after dark, pending you don't have a bunch of mosquitoes like me. Flaring activity still somewhat elevated. Elevated here. Is that even a word? X flare at 30% chance here, 75% chance for M flare. C flare around 99% chance. Currently seeing a little bit of C flare activity with a C 6.3. And it looks like, let me see where this is coming from. Right here. Roughly about center disk here, and that's from that sunspot I've said to watch here. It's starting to grow, get rapidly complex. 3784. Here is, hello, most recent image. There we go. Look at that close proximity here of the magnetic structure. That's going to be a dandy if it continues to stay complex like that. It is going to be facing Earth. Well, it's currently facing Earth, but more directly lined up here in the hours and days ahead. A couple other regional sunspots getting ready to exit the stage. And aside from this one here, there's not a whole lot left behind on the eastern limb of the sun. So we'll see what this one has in store in terms of solar flare and also maybe some CME activity. It's a CME activity that produces these solar storms, not necessarily the flare. You got to remember that plasma cloud that's ejected from the sun arrives here on Earth days later to give us these solar storms similar to what we've seen back in May and last night. All right, let's see here. All right, let's see what we got for weather outlook here today. Not a whole lot of severe weather. In fact, just general thunderstorm activity out here. I'm enjoying a cooler day today here in Northern California. After endless days of 100-degree or higher temperatures here outside of Chico, California, we got about 92 degrees right now in my backyard. I can actually step outside and it feels nice, right? Who'd have thought 92 degrees would feel nice? Well, when you live here long enough and you're stuck around these 100 and 110 degree days all the time in the summer, 92 feels nice. Not a whole lot of thunderstorm, or not a whole lot of severe weather out here. No tornado threats. Mainly just some wind and a little bit of hail threats out there. Let's check out the numerical models here, see what we got for any hurricanes. I'm going to back this out and go to the North American weather model here. We do have a low pressure that's going to be, it's a tropical wave out here right now, but it's going to further intensify through the Puerto Rico area and make a sharp turn northward. At least that's what the models had showed us. There it is right here, turning into a hurricane. That's going to stay a ways away from the states here, which is good news because they don't need any more rain, right? Looks like it gets caught up a little bit heading northward. That's a little bit less than, or that's a little bit different than what it showed last night. But there's a couple things at play here. You got this massive high pressure out in the northern Atlantic. That is spinning. Obviously, the airflow is going to be clockwise around that. If it's any further south here, then that will push that hurricane further inland. So it looks like some weather models are forecasting it to, well, it looks like a secondary high pressure system right here going to develop, maybe squash that further to the west. So we'll have to watch that. Massive high pressure out in the Pacific here, keeping us high and dry, but I'm appreciative of the cooler weather. I just wish that low pressure would spin off here and go down south, but yeah, that's wishful thinking. Either way, we got low 90s here expected for the next couple weeks, and I'm hopeful that we are done with the hundreds. I don't want to jinx it, though. All right, so just stay on guard, folks. We got another little aftershock coming in there to the Pasadena area, 1.6. Again, these are pretty consistent earthquakes in terms of the depth of the quakes, about 6 miles below the surface. I'm just not really impressed with the amount of aftershocks following a 4.4. There should be a little bit more in there, folks, and so we'll watch this pretty closely. I'll cover this and more a little bit later on in tonight's update. So stay safe out there. Appreciate the comments coming in. If you didn't get a chance to comment, let me know where you're at when you felt this earthquake today. Again, a lot of people stating that this earthquake was stronger than the 4-pointer. So, yeah. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. Stay safe out there.